League season is coming very, very soon, and here's an arsenal that'll help you boost your average this league season. Now, first thing I want to do, I want to preface every house shot is different in every league you go to. Even in the same center, they sometimes have different house shots. So, step one before all of this is understand what your house shot is. Is there a ton of oil? Is there no oil? Is it flatter? Is it super cliffed? Make sure to know these things before you choose a league arsenal. Now, I'm going to be giving a few different options because, like I said, every house shot is different. They can always change, but these are going to be some of the common tools that you need to be able to succeed in your league this year. Starting off with the very first ball that you need for both sport shots and for house shots, I always recommend a benchmark ball. This can be a lot of different things. Storm labels it as the Ion Pro. To me, it is just any middle of the bag ball. This can be, in my opinion, a symmetrical solid ball is usually best. Otherwise, a weaker asymmetrical pearl also fits in this category. If you're more rev dominant, you might have to go down to a medium sharp ball. But I'm going to label it as a symmetrical solid medium and smooth ball. Things like a phase 2, like a Venom Shock, like I mentioned, an Ion Pro, like a Track Stealth. Anything in that category is going to be the first ball to use, especially if you don't know your league pattern, or if you're bowling in a new league, then you can find out, what does this ball do? Does it look like it never hooks? Then you know there's a lot more oil and you need to go up in your bag to a stronger ball. But if it hooks too early, too soon, if it's just puking because it burns up too quick, then you know there's not that much oil and you need to actually ball down to either a shinier ball or a weak option. All right, the second ball you need in your bag for most league conditions is going to be a strong and sharp ball. This is usually going to be the banger of balls that you're going to be using in your league. This is going to be the asymmetrical pearls, the asymmetrical shiny hybrids. What these balls do is when you throw on a typical house shot, if you miss left, the core of the ball should be strong enough where it will still hook in a ton of oil. Where if you miss right though, the core is also strong enough where the core will stop hooking and then it's going to roll out and still hit the pocket. So asymmetrical pearls are going to be the best bang for your buck. If you want that highest series, these are going to be the balls that you look towards. Asymmetrical pearl balls usually have the most 800 series in a year. Do I know that fact for certain? No, it just seems like in general, these usually cater towards the highest scores in general. They are also high risk though, because if an asymmetrical pearl is not good, you need to put it away immediately because it will look terrible the rest of the day. Some of the best options right now are going to be something like a Track Theorem, Rotogrip Attention Star. You have things like the Storm Virtual Energy Blackout. You have things like the Crimson Jackal from Motive. You could have a shiny Pride Liberty if you want. Otherwise, there's a ton of new Brunswick balls that fit here. Intense Mindset. You have the Beyond Infinity. You have the new Atlas Hybrid that's coming out. You have the new Hitter Pearl from Radical coming out. There are a ton of balls that fit in this category. I personally usually don't recommend more than 3 balls for a league. If you want to have more options, definitely bring more. It is okay to bring as many balls as you want. There are no rules against how many bowling balls you bring. I usually try to limit myself to 3 and a spare ball. So for this third ball, we're going to go to the bottom portion of the bag. We're going to go to the weak balls, because if you are bowling and you're in game 3 and the fronts hook so much that you can't get a ball through it, I would recommend a weak and sharp bowling ball. These are going to be your get out of jail free card. These personally, I don't think have the most use, only in certain centers and on certain house shots. If there isn't much oil or you're in a 5-person league with a lot of rev rate and they break down super quick. These are going to be the ones that are get out of jail free. So if you have a cliff that comes up, this is a ball you could use if you want to move right and jam it through the friction. So bowling balls that fit in this category are going to be a lot of the Vibe series. You're going to have a lot of the Hustle series. I would recommend something a little bit stronger, like an Exponent Pearl, for example, or a Max Thrill from Motive. Any of those balls, whenever you get to game 3, the fronts of the lane are absolutely torched. These balls will get through it, but still have enough core and cover strength to be able to kick out corner pins and still hook. Now, we do have a lot of other options. So if you're in a house shot where they put down tons and tons of oil. I personally remember some house shots that had 35 mils of oil on it. It is an insane amount. Your symmetrical solid balls probably won't hook that much, especially if you're speed dominant. So if you're speed dominant or your house shot has a ton of oil, I think you might need a weaker asymmetrical solid ball. I don't think you're going to need things like an extreme envy. I don't think you're going to need things like a jackal ambush. I think what you're going to need are the weaker ones. The Black Widow 3.0, for example, would be excellent. The Rotogrip XL, amazing. The Motive Evoke. All of those balls are going to be really good to be able to hook in all of that oil, but not be too strong and too pukey down lane. If you use something that's way too strong, you're going to leave a lot of corner pins. House shots aren't about just hitting the pocket like a sport shot. House shots are all about being able to string strikes together and make the most miss room for you. Now, if your house shot does have a ton of oil, like I was mentioning, I don't think you need a weak and sharp ball. I think you can move that up to be a medium and sharp ball. So things like a Hyper Venom, things like a Sublime, things like the new Optimum Idol Pearl, all of those balls are going to fit really well to be able on a stronger or a heavier house shot. Now let's flip the script. What if your house doesn't put that much oil out, or the lanes are absolutely torched all the time? What do you need? I don't think you ever need anything stronger than a weaker asymmetrical pearl. So weaker asymmetrical pearls are things like the Attention Star or the Radical Hitter Pearl. Those balls are going to be definitely strong enough for you. You probably don't need anything with a super big core in it, things like a Theorem. That has a pretty strong core, things like a Virtual Energy Blackout, things like a Harsh Reality Pearl. I don't think you're going to need those if there's not much oil. These will be good early on, but as you get later into the day, they might not be as great. Then you want to move everything down a slot. I still recommend the Symmetrical Solid to have as a benchmark, but then if you have a weaker asymmetrical pearl, you definitely need that weak and sharp option. Now, I'll be making a full video on tips on how to bowl on a house shot later, but one quick tip for you is the bowling ball matters a lot. Now, sometimes it isn't how you're throwing it, it's what you have in your hand. So if you have what we call a cliff, where there's a lot of oil in the middle of the lane, no oil on the outside of the lane, you're gonna want a stronger bowling ball. Remember that. You want something where if you miss left, you're not missing the head pin, or you're not bucketing, you're still getting swisher strikes. And if you miss right, the ball doesn't hook on you instantly and go Brooklyn or through the face. It still goes into the pocket. So remember that. That's why the Symmetrical Solid is going to be super important. That's going to be a really good ball to use on the cliff. Now, hopefully that helped. I know it's a little all over the place, but a big important thing of this is know your house shot. If you're bowling in a new place, I would recommend going with my first set of bowling balls, because then you can change it up depending on how those are. You can then change surfaces also, or change how you throw it to try to match into whatever your house shot is. Otherwise, if you have any other questions on it, let me know down below in the comments. Otherwise, good luck for league season. I'm excited to hear how much your guys' averages skyrocket using some of these tips. Thanks, guys.